I just want to do a video covering Real Event OCD and the chronic guilt that's related to that and how that plays such a big part in an OCD sufferer's journey. Now, I was stuck with chronic guilt 24/7 from the minute I woke up, from the minute I went to bed, for about 5, 6, 7 years, consumed by that all through my teenage years and from early adulthood years. I'm now recovered from that. Recovery involves no chronic anxiety and no chronic guilt. There's nothing in the past today that can disrupt my inner peace. There's nothing that OCD could find, it could scan for, it could latch to disrupt my inner peace today. But that doesn't happen overnight. That comes with applying unconditional acceptance, with disputing irrational beliefs and seeing where we're going wrong with our internal catastrophization towards our core fears, and fear of rejection, fear of going to jail, fear of being a societal outcast, all these different fears related to Real Event OCD. Because OCD is always looking for that thing in the past, which you obviously cannot change, hence why it's in the past. And that's exactly why OCD is going after it, because it knows you cannot change that. You cannot do anything about that. You cannot go back in time and amend anything. No. But because it feels so real, because the guilt's so high, we feel like we have to keep replaying it over and over and over and over again in our heads to get some sort of answer, to get some sort of certainty, to get clarity, to figure it out, to work it out. But it never provides long-term relief. Peace will not be found that way. Peace will be found when we go towards the worst case scenario. That even if it did happen, even if the worst case did happen and it was a reality, and we have to go towards making peace with the worst case scenario. Because if you keep trying to seek reassurance, if you keep Googling, if you keep confessing, if you keep asking one more question, yeah, but are you sure I did this? You know, I used to ask other people as well, especially my partner. Are you sure you think this? Are you sure this isn't bad? Are you sure I'm not a bad person? Are you sure I'd have done this? Do you think I did this? You know, round and round and round. I never got certainty that way. I never got an answer that way, because OCD was always just looking for that next thing. You know, when I used to confess real event and false memories, and the reason we call it real event false memory is because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's false. It doesn't matter whether it's real. It's the principles of unconditional acceptance and dealing with, even if it was real, how we can overcome that and make peace with that and be at a baseline state of peace and not having to get an answer, not having to work it out and get certainty. Okay? When I used to confess OCD, I'd feel temporary relief. So I used to be told that, yes, you've done nothing wrong, Sam, or there's nothing to worry about. What you're worrying about, it's just OCD. You're not a bad person. All that crap, all that reassurance. But then what OCD would do, and I'm sure you can relate to this, OCD would just move the goalposts. It would just move the boundaries. It would just find something else. Within seconds, it can convince you that you're going to jail for something else. Within seconds, it can convince you that you intentionally did wrong, that you deliberately did wrong, that you wanted to do wrong. It's going to doubt everything, okay? I remember at times where, with real event and false memory OCD, I thought the only way of getting relief here was handing myself into the police, handing myself in and giving myself a jail sentence. Because in my head, I had that court scene, replaying over and over again, the judge and executioner scene of sort of providing evidence in your head. And, you know, with real event, you'll know how that feels. Trying to see, well, did I do this? Or what are my intentions? Constantly replaying is exhausting. That constant going back and forth in your head, looking for that answer. But even if I went to jail, even if the worst case happened, even if I handed myself in, as soon as I did that, as soon as I walk into a prison cell, OCD would just move, it would find something else, and you'd be internally and mentally adding more jail sentences to you, because OCD would just find something. Oh, you did this when you were 10. Oh, you did this when you were 15. Oh, you did this last week. Oh, you did this yesterday. Oh, you did this when you were 20. You did this 2 years ago. Now, OCD is always scanning for that. It's always looking for that. And if you suffered with real event false memory, and this is why it's very important to get the right help, because you need to speak to someone who understands it and isn't just going to give you lots of reassurance, isn't going to just say, oh, you've done nothing wrong, mate, what are you talking about? No, you'll be fine, you're the last person to do that, you're not a bad person, all that crap. Yes, that can seem well-intentioned, but it does not help with chronic severe OCD, because OCD just runs rings around you. It finds something else. You know, and you're talking to, and you listen to someone here, there's a personal experience. I've suffered with that big time. Every minute of every day, chronic guilt 24/7. There wasn't much distraction, there wasn't much relief at all. I used to sort of vaguely have healthy distractions or unhealthy distractions, maybe when I was drunk it used to numb it, but even then the guilt felt even worse at times. Maybe if I was, say, sort of a sport or a music event, if I tried to sort of distract myself doing something else, it usually used to heighten it. Because it would, let's say, for example, if I was going to sport, if I was going to a football match, it would feel even worse because OCD would say, yeah, but I want to enjoy this moment, I'm desperate to enjoy it, but OCD would ramp it up to feel like I couldn't enjoy anything, and felt the chronic guilt just felt so severe, like I couldn't be present, I couldn't be connected, I couldn't enjoy, I couldn't take anything in, and that's how it feels, okay? At times, if only they knew, all the time, everywhere I went, if I was out dating, if I was out seeing friends, if I was going to a job interview, if I was on vacation, if I was traveling, anything that I had planned, it was, if only they knew, if only they knew. They would not be talking to you right now, if only they knew. They would not be dating you right now, if only they knew. These people would not be speaking to you at this football match, they wouldn't be stood with you, if only they knew. They wouldn't be making plans with you, they wouldn't be going on holiday with you, if only they knew. This person sat on the bus next to you, they wouldn't be sat next to you, if only they knew. That was 24/7 bombardment. And that only comes down once you work on the fear. Okay, that internal analysing, that internal rumination, that replaying things doesn't just come down overnight. That feels automatic. And that, if anyone's telling you just to stop ruminating doesn't understand OCD. That's like telling a blind man just to start seeing again. That's like telling someone with COVID just to stop coughing. It doesn't work like that. The rumination is automatic, and that only comes down once we start looking at our beliefs and our core fears at play, fueling the rumination cycle. That's so important to remember. Because if I just said, right, Sam, when I was really stuck, if I just said, right, stop ruminating, that would make me feel even worse, because then I then try and force a way out of it. I try and find a way in my head just to stop ruminating. Oh, Sam, just stop thinking about that. Just stop thinking about it. If only it was that simple. If only we could just stop thinking about that. Some advice I was given when I first started to get an OCD help in sort of local therapy centres, didn't understand anything about OCD. Well-intentioned, yes, but didn't understand anything about OCD. They would just say, sort of think about it later. Think about it in a month's time. Or think about it in the evening when you come in from work. Have that worry time. Have that rumination time. Trying to get the answers. Or delving into the past, trying to get that answer. No. Complete and utter waste of time. Waste of energy, waste of effort. If anything, you're just going to fuel the cycle even more. There's no such worry time with OCD. And when I was stuck, every second of every day was worry time. Was ruminating time. It wasn't just wait until 6 o'clock in the evening when you get home from work. It doesn't work like that at all. Okay, so in the meantime, okay, because people say, it's a very valid question. They say, yes, I'm trying to bring the belief down. I'm trying to bring the fear down. But as we know, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And there is no time frame, but it could take sort of 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years. There is no set time frame. That's not to scare you. That's to be very realistic of how long it can take. So as we chip away at beliefs, as we chip away at our core fears, our internal catastrophization, what do we do in the meantime? It's a very valid question. So when you are ruminating, the main thing is you're not trying to get rid of that. You're not trying to jump in and engage and try and get an answer. We have to let that play out, okay? The thing with Real Event OCD, it's gonna feel so convincing within a matter of seconds. I remember just walking along the street. I was having a sort of fairly good day. Obviously the guilt was there, but sometimes it wasn't as extreme, sort of simmering away in the background. And all of a sudden, it would latch to a real event. Maybe I was triggered by something. And it would latch to thinking, oh my God, how have I never thought of that before? And then within milliseconds, I was convinced I was going to jail for the rest of my life. So I thought, oh, okay, how do I get relief? How do I get relief? How do I get relief? Right, if I confess, if I call my partner, if I tell someone who vaguely understands OCD, let's confess to them. If I tell the police, if I tell my friends, if I tell the person that false memory relates to, or the thing that happened in my head, if I just tell someone, or do I profusely apologise? Do I just keep trying to go over it in my head? You're always looking for that quick fix, and that becomes a problem because there is no relief that way. You will not get relief that way at all, okay? The amount of messaging that I used to do to people. Oh, I had this, or do you think this of me, or did this happen? I can't remember what happened. The times of like consent, and did they consent? Drunken memories and things like that. I speak to a lot of people that are stuck with that because OCD targets those kind of memories. It targets those fuzzy, faded, uncertain, not quite sure what happened memories. Okay, it's going to go after that. That's why it goes after ages of development, sort of between the ages of 11, 12 to 15, 16, ages of puberty, that kind of age, especially drunken moments, maybe moments sort of in, when you're half awake in the night and things like that. You know, when you can't quite remember. If you could remember 100% what happened and got certainty on that, then OCD is not going to go after it. But also, a very key point to remember here is that the real event OCD, real event will happen in our life. That all of our lives, we're all human, we're going to have real events. You know, even if it definitely happened, if it's a genuine real event, let's say you lost a family member, let's say you genuinely got ill and got diagnosed with cancer, let's say you genuinely went to jail, or you made a mistake and you go to jail, let's say you had a huge financial hit where someone made a huge mistake around you, or you made a huge mistake yourself. Let's say you're building a business, something, and something goes wrong, and you get hit with a huge financial loss. I know these things do happen in our lives. We lose family members, people die in crashes, plane crashes, people suddenly die or suddenly get ill, and then things change in our life, and humans adapt and they adjust, and humans become flexible towards that. So real events do happen. You can't just try and work it out. You can't just try and get certainty that it's OCD, because real events will happen in our life. So this is why the tools that we teach, the tools that we learn through rational thinking, through unconditional acceptance, all the tools that you read about in the books on our reading list, and you'll see that these are lessons and how to overcome these things, even if it was real, even if it wasn't OCD, because that's a wasted time trying to work out whether it's OCD or not. We have to apply the tools, even if it happened, even if it's real, okay? Seeing how to be rational, using unconditional acceptance to either ourselves, the other person, to life, bringing down the internal catastrophization, the 0 to 100 reaction, looking at the musts, the shoulds, the oughts, the have-tos. I've got to do this. I cannot possibly have that. I can't stand that. The terribilizing, the awfulizing, the very rigid black and white demands, very rigid, the low frustration tolerance. Okay, we have to look at all these things. Okay, if you make a decision, let's look at a businessman or anyone in a business. Let's say you make a decision based on soul emotion. Now, I'd say pretty confidently that's not going to be the best decision to make, because you're going off anger, you're going off rage, you're going off anxiety, panic, guilt. So you're learning how to look at these things rationally, seeing the worst case scenario, making peace with the worst case scenario whilst not liking it. Big difference there. Acceptance isn't agreement. So you can make peace with the worst case scenario whilst not liking it, whilst not wanting it, whilst not justifying it, whilst not excusing it, whilst not supporting it, but we can accept it. Just an example there, I could accept if I had cancer, I'd really not want to get cancer. I really would not like that, because I love my life. I really enjoy my life and I love living. But I could accept that because I made peace with death. I no longer fear death. I no longer fear getting ill or a painful death. I've made peace with that. So acceptance isn't agreement. I don't agree with it. I don't want it, but I can accept it. So we can use that with any real event. If you've made a mistake, if you've done something bad in the past, if you've broken the law, if you've acted immorally, if you've had a speeding fine, you know, anything that you may have done, you can regret that. You can see that behaviour as bad. You can see that behaviour as wrong. You can condemn the act. You can condemn the action. That's fine, because that's healthy, because we can learn from that. The problem is when we say, well, if I've done wrong, because I've acted badly, because I've broken the law, that means I am bad. That means I deserve no good. That means I should be punished for eternally. That means I should be punished for the rest of my life. That means I can't deserve to be let off the hook. I can't possibly let off the hook. That is the problem, and that is why you feel chronically guilty. That's why you feel chronically anxious. That's why it feels like nothing else matters. That's why it feels like, what's the point in anything? That is why the chronic guilt is perpetuating 24/7, pounding away 24/7. Boom, boom, boom. Anything you did, nope, doesn't matter, you did this thing in the past. Give you £1 million, nope, doesn't matter, you did this thing in the past. Give you this amazing job promotion, nope, doesn't matter, you did this thing in the past. You achieve a work goal, doesn't matter, you did this thing in the past. Nothing else matters. What's the point? And that's the example I use. When I was really stuck, someone could have gave me £1 million, and it's all happy, but no, I'd have been so consumed in guilt, it wouldn't have mattered. Okay? And that's how it feels. That's how intense it feels. Okay, we've got to remember that in that moment, it's going to feel totally overwhelming. It's going to feel so convincing. It's going to feel so real that you can't tell whether it's OCD or not. And this is why we have to go towards it not being OCD, even if it wasn't OCD, because if we keep saying it's just OCD, then it becomes reassurance, and that's never going to give long-term relief. Peace will not be provided that way. We have to go towards making peace with worst case scenario, accepting ourselves unconditionally, even if this real event did happen, okay, and looking at it rationally and bringing down the internal catastrophization. That is so, so important. We deal with real event OCD a lot, false memory OCD, any guilt-related theme we deal with a lot because we're talking from personal experience. We've all been there. We understand what it feels like, the intensity, how it feels, and most importantly, how to overcome that. If you're interested in our one-to-one services, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. When I stop speaking, the WhatsApp number will come up here, so you can contact us, get in touch with one of the coaches here, and we can look at your specific fears and have that tailored one-to-one approach in getting your life back and overcoming OCD and bringing back that mental freedom, that long-term freedom for that robust OCD recovery.